What's up? I'm Kneeland Hibbett, and you're watching Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR.
Greetings from Daytona, where a band of dreamers took a strip of beach and turned it into a proving ground. The Great American Race, where year after year, greatness is the destination. So book your experience and soak in 500 miles of history and tradition. Once you arrive, you'll never look back. Secure your seats now at Daytona500.com.
Roll Tide and welcome to this Tuesday edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. This is Roger Hoover. Great to be with you from our studios in Tuscaloosa as we have a busy show coming up, looking back to the Mercer win and looking ahead to Alabama against Oklahoma coming up on Saturday. We'll start our show by going through what's coming up and our headlines thanks to our friends RJ Young. RJ Young is the official technology solutions provider of Crimson Drive. They've given us a smart board to go through everything in a very interactive way on the show. We'll start by taking a look at what's coming up, beginning with our Mercer Booth Camp highlights. A very enjoyable 52-7 win for the Crimson Tide this past Saturday. We'll see the best from our Yay Alabama Booth Camp. Then we'll talk to the long snapper of the Crimson Tide, Kneeland Hibbett. Second time he's joined us on Crimson Drive this year, but kind of a midseason checkup with Kneeland to talk all things Alabama football. We'll talk football. We'll talk basketball with Chris Stewart, the voice of the Crimson Tide, with our Hey Coach preview as he gets ready to talk to Coach DeBoer tomorrow at Baumhower's in Tuscaloosa. Then we'll take a look back to Baumhower's Vestavia Hills last night, a fun edition of Crimson Tide Rewind. You'll even hear some of the fun at the very end of Be Kind Crimson Tide Rewind. Looking at what's going on around Crimson Tide athletics with the football team. Kept it rolling this past week. 52-7 was the final score. Really got to empty the depth chart, empty the roster, whatever you want to say, as Alabama played a lot of players, especially in the second half. With the win, the Crimson Tide now 8-2 with only 2 games left to go. And it's worth keeping in mind, Kneeland DeBoer, in his time as a head coach, Fresno State and Washington, he has been extremely good in the month of November. They always say you remember what you do in November, and his team's a lot to write home about. 34-2, 10-0 since 2022. Hopefully that number will just improve when we get ready for the Oklahoma Sooners coming up on Saturday. Don't forget, kickoff at 6:30. Radio coverage will start at 3:30, and certainly hope you can join us on the Yay Alabama Booth Cam from Norman. Men's basketball team suffered its first loss this past week. Alabama went on the road to a very good Purdue team and a great atmosphere inside Mackey Arena. Purdue got the win. 87-78 was the final score, but it was a good game for LeBaron Philon. Freshman for the Crimson Tide with 18 points, a great effort by him. Even with the loss, Alabama still in the top 10, dropping down to number 8 in the AP poll. Now this week, it's time to go to Birmingham for the CM Newton Classic in downtown Birmingham at Legacy Arena. Alabama against Illinois, a team that's now in the top 25 for the first time all year. So a great matchup coming up. 8 p.m. will be the start time. Our radio coverage will start at 7 all across the network. Been looking at the women's basketball team this past Sunday, collected a win against ULM, 75-52 on the road. Crimson Tide now ranks 24th in the nation, so the first 3 weeks of the year, Alabama has maintained a top 25 ranking. Christy Curry's team, no game coming up this week. They're getting ready for the Emerald Coast Classic in Niceville, Florida, just outside of Destin, and they will have games coming up next Monday against Alabama State, and then Tuesday against either UAB or Clemson coming up, so good schedule for that tournament. We won't see the Crimson Tide women's basketball team this week as they prepare for that tournament, but Roll Tide to Christy Curry and the Crimson Tide, a perfect 6-0 start to the season. And don't forget, we're also getting ready for our final home game of the year against the Auburn Tigers. Jake Matthew will be performing at Champions Lane for our final concert of the year. We've had Easton Corbin, Lauren Elena was in town, of course, for the Georgia game. Head games got us started to begin the year. A lot of fun for the Western Kentucky game. We've really enjoyed our concert series at Vector Security Champions Lane, and we know that, of course, we're going to be with a 2:30 kickoff. Our radio coverage will start at 11:30, and then Jake Matthew will be performing around that time as well, getting you ready for Alabama against Auburn in the Iron Bowl. That's the final home game of the year. The next to last home game we just had this past Saturday in Tuscaloosa, with Alabama stepping out of conference to take on Mercer. Here is just a sample of our Booth Cam highlights. The full Booth Cam highlights are available on our YouTube channel, all social media platforms, but we wanted to give you the best moments from Saturday at Saban Field, Alabama defeating Mercer, here on our Booth Cam highlights.
The kick will carry into the end zone. A fair catch called for. Strong side to the left. They run it and then bounce it to the left side. Ball on the deck. Scramble for it. Picked up by Bama. Tide's got it at the 45-yard line. C.J. Miller had it. Lost it. And then Damon Payne Jr. picked it up and in stride was able to carry it an additional 5 yards. Bama going under center. They hand it off. Ryan Williams cuts it up. 25-20 foot race, and you know he's going to win it. Touchdown, Alabama. Ryan Williams, 29 yards.
Robbie Oots once again out there on the perimeter, setting the long run up for the touchdown for Ryan Williams.
The receivers all bunched in to both sides. Play action. They'll dump it off to Ryan Williams, trying to get to the corner. Gets a block, splits defenders, gets into the end zone. Touchdown, Alabama, 14 yards. Second TD for the freshman. Ryan Williams. 2 wideouts left, 1 right. Drops straight back, fires across the middle. It's deflected, and it's picked off. What a play by Alabama. Coming up with it, Quay Russaw.
Hey, that was an athletic play by Quay Russaw right there. They were showing as if they was going to bring the house, and then he dropped out, and while he was dropping out, man, he made such a really good athletic play to get that ball, man. That could have been an incomplete pass easily.
Deontay Lawson, I think Tyler got the deflection.
Yeah, we definitely brought more. We confused that offensive line, and we're able to get pressure in the backfield.
Ooh, it's jam and justice in the backfield as Milroe will operate from the pistol with either of those thoroughbreds beside him. Play action, looks across the middle. Got Oots wide open, catch made, 15, 10-5, touchdown Alabama. 44 yards on the connection. Freshman from Raleigh, North Carolina, scrambles to his left. Flags come in as he fires back across the middle. Catch is made, first down and more. Ball knocked loose, picked up by Alabama. It's picked up. The Tide's got a return going across midfield. They go down the far sideline with Zabian Brown. Zabian on his feet. Zabian in the end zone. Touchdown, Alabama. We've got a flag down that I think is going to be against Mercer.
The penalty is declined. The result of the play is a fumble recovered by the defense and returned for a touchdown.
D-Square, what did you see?
Hey, we had Jahai running right down the pipe. Number 7, he had to pull his jersey. He was going to lose a quarterback this game, which was the original penalty. Then we had to pick. Hey, and you're defined by your ability to put the ball in the end zone, baby.
Rolling the pocket right will be Milroe. Looking deep downfield. He's got a man in Bernard. Makes the grab inside the 35 of Mercer. That'll be a bank first down. A beautiful throw and catch right there. Butch tells me it covers 50 yards. Now this one from 45. Snap and spot are good. The kick is up. It's got enough leg, and that kick is good.
Tyler Watts now in at quarterback for the Crimson Tide. Ty Simpson.
Yeah, good to see some of the second-team guys getting an opportunity here for this Alabama offense. A new offensive line as well. Pretty much a wholesale changeover outside of Gino Vandermark going to center.
Going to Simpson, who rolls to his right to avoid the rush. Looking downfield now. He's just going to run it. And Ty will get the first down and more. Fighting forward. He'll gain about 15 on that play. So now Simpson looking. Pressure coming. He avoids the rush. Rolls to his right. Throws deep downfield. He's got a man there, and it is caught. Cuevas at the 1. Falls down shy of the goal line, but what a play by Ty Simpson, and the grab from Josh Cuevas. Maybe your play of the game from Alabama. 43-yard connection. New faces in for the Crimson Tide as Lonergan will go on the quick toss left side. And cutting it back is Riley. He'll get to the first down marker, and that'll move the sticks once more around the 43-yard line. Lonergan looking, firing across the middle. Boy, you talk about a tight window, but he was able to find his receiver and connect on about a 7-yard pickup there. Looked like one of the tight ends making the grab for Alabama. Jay Lindsey making the grab. Lonergan taking his time, getting the snap. Looking, firing. Great catch made, enough for the first down. Boy, that is a wonderful grab on the part of Ty Lockwood, the tight end, and that was not an easy catch.
Now, strong hands there. He had to reach out away from his body and snag that as his momentum was going back towards the center of the field. Ball thrown outside.
And more changes as Austin Mack, the Washington transfer, is now in at quarterback for the Crimson Tide on 1st and 10. Mack looking, firing downfield, has a man in the end zone. That one is caught, touchdown, Alabama. Rico Scott, his first collegiate touchdown. Mack, the same for him. And, man, great to see Ty Simpson be the first guy out to greet Mack, who now sprints towards Rico. And they'll remember that one forever. Extra point attempt upcoming from Reed Schubach, third place kicker of the day for the Tide. They've all been successful. Thorough, efficient, Tide rolling 52-7 here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield. How about the fifth quarterback of the day to take the field? Cade Carruth, able to check in at quarterback. J.R. Gardner is the running back. And this one is going to come to a close. Final 10 seconds are going to tick away. And Alabama's going to get a win. And Rammer Jammer, indeed accurate today. 52-7, the final score.
Experience racing like never before. From the sandy beaches of Daytona to the high banks of one of the most exciting super speedways on the NASCAR circuit. Don't miss out as NASCAR kicks off the 2025 season with the Daytona 500 on February 16th, 2025. Witness history in the making and purchase your tickets today at DaytonaInternationalSpeedway.com. Each and every Crimson Drive, we hope to have a conversation with a member of the Crimson Tide football team. And this week, we get to talk to one of our favorites here on the network, Kneeland Hibbett. We had a great convo with him last spring, talking all things about his journey to Alabama from Florence, Alabama. Now, this week, he joins us kind of to tell us about how this season has gone for Alabama, especially for the specialists like James Burnip, the punter, and Graham Nicholson, the kicker. We get an inside look to the Crimson Tide from one of their more colorful personalities on the roster. Here's our one-on-one conversation with Alabama long snapper Kneeland Hibbett.
Welcome back to Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR, as we're inside the podcast studio at the Advantage Center from Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Roger Hoover now pleased to be joined by Alabama's long snapper Kneeland Hibbett. Kneeland, it is good to see you. We only got 2 games left in the regular season. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide, man. It's good to be back.
Season rolling along like you expected it to. How have you managed the ups and downs that this year has brought?
Yeah, it's been good. So, obviously ups and downs throughout the season, but as a specialist group and as a team, I think a lot of things we've been through this year brought us together. So, really hitting our strides. It was a great win at LSU. So keeping the momentum going is definitely the name of the game for us right now.
When we talked back in the summer, we talked all about getting to work with a new kicker for you in Graham Nicholson. What have you seen out of him since he got here?
Man, it's been awesome. Obviously, when we first started the season, he had a miss and had to, bounce back from that. But ever since then, man, he's been knocking them through the upright. So, he's gotten his confidence. We've been able to come together as a group a lot better. So, it's been a really fun season.
Was he also getting antsy too? I believe first 3 or 4 games, he was only like 1 for 2. I mean, you guys weren't getting out there very much except extra points.
And it was crazy. I'd never seen this before. For the first 6 games we had this year, he had 3 field goal attempts. And then, further we got into the season, he's been making more field goals. But dude, as soon as we started, he wasn't getting any field goals, and it was weird, but it finally came along, so we're doing good now.
Certainly doing well with him. And then James Burnip, what can you tell us about what he's done this year?
James has been the best in the country consistently. Dude, he's been booming the ball this year, so when he's been flipping the field so many times like he has, it's been helping the team. So, he's been doing really well, and it's been fun to play with him this year too.
And also, when we caught up over the summer, you talked about how Coach DeBoer is kind of shaking a few things up on special teams for you based on a meeting you had. How has that been implemented throughout the year?
It's been awesome. Like we talked about a couple months back, it was my first year blocking. So, implementing that has helped me a ton.
Have you liked that part of the game?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been different, something that, I wasn't used to doing, but, being able to do it in a game setting, get used to it, and, feel what that actually feels like, makes me feel like I'm definitely ready for the next level.
Yeah, and how much is that going to help you, just having that film on you when NFL teams are evaluating whether or not to sign you?
Well, in the NFL, all snappers have to block, so being able to have that experience in college was definitely an asset, so DeBoer helped me a ton with that.
That's really good, and there's been a lot of conversation about crowd noise. Alabama's played in some loud environments. Even Wisconsin had its own noise for a little bit during that game, but then obviously Tennessee, LSU. How do you guys try and stay on the same page with some of the kicks you have?
Well, man, honestly, when you go into an environment like that, that's why you come to Alabama to play in games like that, so, obviously, there are going to be some nerves, but, at this point, you just get fired up to play at places like that. So it's always fun to go out there.
How have you seen this team really stay together, even with some of the adversity we saw in October?
at the same time, coming together as a team, isn't just about good coaches, which we have, but it's about player-led teams, which is what DeBoer is really big on. And we've had a lot of different guys step up, make plays on the field, but also off the field to really guide the team in the right direction.
What's he like in the locker room on game day?
Coach DeBoer, he's awesome. He has a really chill vibe, but at the same time, he's like, we've been working all week. And, preaching about going 1-0 in every situation that we're in has helped a ton. So he preaches on that a lot, and we really feed off of it.
Do you like that, like Alabama football gets to show off some of that pregame speeches, halftime speeches, especially in those cinematic recaps, so fans can see the intensity he really does have?
It's awesome. And, we never really had that before. And, when I was a Bama fan growing up, like, if I could have that inside look on the team, like, I would love that. So being able to, have fans now seeing Coach DeBoer talking in the locker room, Coach Ballou, different players giving speeches after games is definitely really good for the team.
Crimson Tide picks up a huge win last time out against Mercer. Did you make every snap in that Mercer game?
In this most recent Mercer game? Yes, sir.
Okay, I was just wondering because I know there is another long snapper on the roster, and I know so many guys want to see kind of that next wave get some playing opportunities. But
I take that back. So when we were playing Mercer at the very end, Reed Shoeback.
That's what I thought. Okay.
He was my roommate freshman year, and he had never had the opportunity to go in yet. So, it being 4 years and basically the entire specialist group dressing out, getting to see him go out there, put it straight through the uprights meant so much to us. So definitely seeing him get that opportunity meant the world.
Yeah, that's really cool to see. I mean, I imagine the sideline for the second half of the Mercer game, fourth quarter, had to be about as much fun as you've had on the field this year.
Oh, dude, Billy Roby making pancake blocks, Peyton Fox coming off all the walk-ons were going crazy, and it was such a great thing to see because obviously, I was a walk-on when I came here, and all the guys that come in every day and truly put in the work to see them get on the field and have a great time. I mean, it's a great feeling.
Yeah, and Alabama played 5 quarterbacks, all throughout that day.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a pretty special moment.
It was awesome getting to see everybody in there.
So now the Crimson Tide getting ready for this really pivotal stretch. First of all, going on the road to Oklahoma, then home for the Iron Bowl. Just how excited are you for what's coming up?
It's awesome, man. And, regardless of who we were playing, I'm going to be excited for their last 2 regular season games of my career, and it's been a dream to play here. So, I'm definitely looking forward to both those games.
Got the road game this week, and then it's Auburn for the Iron Bowl, and then Senior Day. Is the family all ready to be on the field with you, getting ready for that game? They're
so excited, man. It'll be awesome. So definitely sharing that experience with them will be super surreal because I remember the last Senior Day that I was at when I was a fan was in the Iron Bowl when we won 49-0, and C.J. Mosley gave me his glove. So the Senior Bowl or the Iron Bowl Senior Day has always been a really special game for me.
That's really special. And then for you as well, we've talked before about your TikTok fame that you have and social media use, the NIL use that you've had. Just how much have you enjoyed getting to implement a lot of those things that maybe you worked on over the summer, and now I've gotten to see them come out to the fans this fall?
It's awesome, man. So, using TikTok is, an NIL source to be able to, have a little extra money as a walk-on, but also go to charitable foundations that I care about has been super good. So being able to use that as a platform, but, also have the final season of flag football come out this spring is going to be really fun. So, this time I think I'm going to try posting on Instagram too, see what the reels do, and then post on TikTok as well. But, everybody's been asking about the final season, so it's definitely coming out.
That's certainly good. So it's going to be coming out in the spring. Fans should keep an eye on it for then.
Definitely. Basketball season 2. I don't know. We'll see where it goes.
Keep Coach Hibbett away. That's certainly good. And you mentioned the charitable foundation. Now, who do you work with your NIL?
The Concussion Legacy Foundation. They do so much research into CTE and how it can help people find a cure with it. And, my grandfather who played here was unfortunately diagnosed with it. So being able to have, different opportunities to give to that foundation that I care about really means the world. So
you're on the watch list or semifinalist, I guess, for the Manley Award to the nation's best long snapper. Is that something you think about, or is it just kind of nice to hear about? And then you just got to see what happens the rest of the way.
I mean, it's definitely a huge honor to be on that list. Obviously, you can't really think too much about it during the season, but there have been some great names that won that award, and Thomas Fletcher here in 2020. So it's definitely an honor to be on that list, and I'm extremely appreciative.
Well, I know Crimson Tide fans will keep making a lot of noise on social media trying to get you that honor. Kneeland, thank you so much for the time you've given us here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Best of luck with everything coming up. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. Thank you.
Greetings from Daytona, where year after year, greatness is the destination. So book your experience and soak in 500 miles of history and tradition. Secure your seats now at Daytona500.com.
From TikTok star Kneeland Hibbett to the star of our booth cam highlights, Chris Stewart here on Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. Chris always joins us on Tuesday for a one-on-one conversation, catching up on the previous football game, looking ahead to what's coming up in both football and men's basketball, plus tomorrow night's edition of Hey Coach and the Kneeland DeBoer Show. Here's our weekly conversation with the voice of the Crimson Tide, Chris Stewart.
Chris, Roll Tide, it's great to see you. We enjoyed being back at Saban Field this past Saturday, especially getting to see Alabama really empty the roster in that impressive win against Mercer. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide, and you're right, Roger. To me, look, I know it's not the road trip to LSU. I know it's not, the home game that the Iron Bowl will be here in a couple of weeks, but that to me is one of the more meaningful weeks of the year for one of the reasons you talked about. I saw so many people and talked to them because I mentioned it during the pregame. How as a kid, that equivalent game was the first one I got to attend. And there were so many people that reached out to me either directly that day or through social media, email, whatever, and said, hey, thank you. Because you're right, it was the first time for us, or it's the one game each year that I can take my kid to, and it is meaningful, it is special. But at the same time, it's the one game that so many of these kids that work so hard during the year on the Alabama roster get a fighting chance at getting in the ball game, and it's almost a Rudy type moment for them. For those that remember the movie. And, they'll never forget it. And the teammates love it. And the thing is, for that moment to happen, you have to go out and execute. If you're a starter, second string guy, you've got to go execute at a high level to put that game away so that those guys can get a chance. And if you don't do your job, then they don't get an opportunity. And I think that's the really cool thing about it is that, look, these guys, the Jalen Milrows know what will lie ahead if they take care of business. But in this game, the motivation is to play well so you can get the day off, the second half off, and go enjoy your teammates and celebrate them. And for that reason, or those reasons, I thought it was a really cool day. It didn't help that it was 70 degrees and not a cloud in the sky either. And it made for a really special afternoon, I thought.
Weather's going to be a little bit different coming up this week for the Crimson Tide as we make the trip to Norman, Oklahoma. Just first of all, you've been to Norman before. Just tell us what we can expect in the environment Alabama's walking into.
Yeah, they fit. They care about the game. Now, granted, it's been 20 years since I've been there. Actually, more than that. It was the 2000 season. I think we went. Tyler was the quarterback, and a great ball game. Two of the most storied in the history of the game, and there's a lot of respect on both sides. They've got a great color scheme. We respect that. So I think it will be fun. The matchup itself up until kickoff. I think their fans will be glad to have us there. There'll be some probably good-natured stuff said back and forth, but it's new enough from a conference standpoint, first ever meeting, that I think it'll be fun, exciting for everybody. Hope, the weather looks a little better than it did when we saw the initial forecast a few days ago, but still it'll be cooler and hopefully good weather, but it will be a really special atmosphere. This will be a tough game. I know their record has not been what you'd expect it for an Oklahoma team to have, and they're not happy about it. But this is one of those that can give them something to hang their hat on if they can beat Alabama and knock us out of the SEC championship game picture and probably out of the college football playoff picture as well, should they get the win over the Tide.
One more on football, the defense for Alabama. I know Mercer did grab one touchdown on a one-handed catch. That was pretty impressive. But, I mean, this defense continues, no matter the opponent, keeping teams out of the end zone. It's nice to go into these final 2 games of the regular
Yeah.
season with Kane Womack's group playing like it is right now.
Yeah, and I thought they did some things very early, Roger, defensively, in terms of personnel that raised some eyebrows. They played a lot of young guys really, really early. And I think it was with the anticipation, you know what, you're probably going to need them. You better find a way to get them ready. And they've done that. We took our lumps. We had a couple of losses that people weren't expecting. The team wasn't happy about. They weren't expecting them. But it's helped make them better for this time of year. And I am excited about how the defense looks and feel like they've taken some pressure off of the offense. When you go into a game not feeling like you have to score 40 in order to win a ball game, that may make it easier to score 40 for whatever reason. It just doesn't feel like every drive that ends with a punt is a bad drive. And we've heard the philosophy for years that any drive that ends with a kick is a good one. It's a positive one. But I think we're seeing that a punt is not a bad thing right now at all, because your defense can help you and get that ball back for you without giving up any points. And, again, dropping 40 at a minimum is not a requirement for this team to win football games.
And then we look to basketball. The men's basketball team traveled to Purdue this past Friday, fell in a very tough environment against a good Purdue team. What do you expect the response will be from Nate Oates and the Crimson Tide coming up on Wednesday against Illinois?
It was part of the toughest schedule in the country. And he's not afraid to play that schedule because he knows he's got a team that can manage it. And what that means is not necessarily winning every game, but being able to stand the test and understand that, okay, when you get to March and hopefully April, it's only going to be good teams left. And you're going to have to face them in succession. Granted, it'll be, only a one-day break in between as opposed to a week or a half week as we're dealing with in this game with Illinois. But you want to face good competition. You want to face the best you can face that actually helps you get better. You don't worry about padding the record. The old deal of 20 wins and, hey, I'm in the tournament, that's out the window. You need to be battle-tested. This team will be an NCAA tournament team. They need to go play and see where they are. And I think they learned that they've got some deficiencies, that against better teams, you got to play for 40 minutes. I don't think the roster has any deficiencies. I don't think the game is lacking, but I think they've got to, when threes are going halfway down and popping out, or other shots are going halfway down, popping out, you still got to do a better job on the glass, and you've got to make sure you get second chance opportunities. And they also learned a big lesson that just because a guy's not on the scouting report is a major threat doesn't mean they're not going to be. And you got to be able to adjust on the fly. Purdue had some guys that did that in that ball game. And in that environment, which you were there, and you would be able to speak better than I, but I've been there before, and it's as tough as you'll find anywhere. So, where they're going to go into hostile places in the league and in other games, and they'll be better prepared for it because of what they faced. And now going in to take on Illinois, there's a checklist of things that they need to work on. But the good news is they'll be able to do it in front of friendly faces instead of a hostile place like Mackey.
We look forward to that coming up on Wednesday in Birmingham. Look forward as well to Hey Coach and the Kneeland DeBoer Show on Wednesday night as well, getting us ready for that road trip to Oklahoma. Chris Stewart, just thank you so much for the time you've given us here today on Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. And safe travels. We'll see you in Norman. Roll Tide.
Thank you, buddy. Roll Tide.
Don't miss out on your chance to experience the energy and the excitement of the Great American Race. Witness history in the making and purchase your tickets today for the 2025 Daytona 500 at DaytonaInternationalSpeedway.com.
Hey, this is Kevin Riley, and you're watching Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR.
Appreciate Chris for his time. Of course, he and Coach DeBoer will head your way coming up tomorrow at Baumhauer's in Tuscaloosa with Hey Coach and the Kneeland DeBoer Show. Last night, we were in Vestavia Hills for Crimson Tide Rewind, presented by the Alabama Department of Public Health. Corey Reamer and I, in front of a packed house, always have a good time talking about Alabama victories as the Crimson Tide picked up the win this past week against Mercer. We'll talk about that. Also look ahead to what's coming up against Oklahoma, and even a few shout-outs at the end of this edition of Be Kind Crimson Tide Rewind, a sample of what we had last night on the show. The full episode will be available on our YouTube page coming up today as well. But let's take a look back to the best of last night's Crimson Tide Rewind. Here is Be Kind Crimson Tide Rewind. Corey, it is great to see you, especially after Alabama defeats the Mercer Bears 52-7 on Saturday.
Yeah, it's a great win. That's took care of business like you were supposed to. We talked about it, last week. It's don't sleep on your opponent. Don't worry about who's on the other sideline. Go out there, take care of business. And, they came away. They played a clean game. They left with no injuries. They got the win and got to play a lot of people on Saturday, which is what you want to do, but you just can't walk into this assuming that that's going to happen. We've seen that happen in the past when you're, expecting your backups to get in pretty early, and then all of a sudden you're in a tight game into the fourth quarter. But that was definitely not the case. You probably got more fight, out of Mercer than we saw Mike Tyson give Jake Paul on Saturday night. But it was pretty close in terms of effort.
That's certainly good. Alabama was really able to empty its bench all throughout that ball game. We saw that throughout the Saban era, but I don't know if we've ever seen that many walk-ons get on like we did. I mean, it was nearly everybody on this flip card that we always have with us in the booth. Everybody got on, it seems, in that game.
What, with 5 quarterbacks, I think, played? Yes. I think it was what it was. Yeah. I didn't know we had 5 quarterbacks on the team. It was incredible. It's every time we ran out there, it was a new face, a new number, get some I thought it was just, it's always good to get game reps, and those guys went out there and took advantage of it. Usually, when you got these young guys or some of these backups, they're not very excited about going out there and getting reps, and that was something that Coach Saban always emphasized. Whenever you get an opportunity in games like this, you got to make them count because you're one play away from, especially those 2 deep guys, you're one play away from being the next guy up and having a more prominent role in the game, especially with Ty Simpson going in. And I was impressed with the way that he looked. He looked like he had command of the offense, used his feet a little bit more than we probably give him credit for, his scramble ability. It was, I was definitely checking the depth chart to see some of the names that were being run out there on Saturday, but good for those guys. There's, a lot of people who put a lot of effort into these seasons, don't ever get any recognition, don't get to travel, dress, and they're staying on the sideline on Saturday, and they get their opportunity to get into the game. There's a couple guys that I know personally that are freshmen down there that are walk-ons, and good for them. They had an exciting moment. They actually got to get some game reps.
Give them a shout-out. Who are they?
I mean, we had a couple. Mollison was one of them. Cooper Mollison, he's a local kid from Vestavia, played receiver here. He's a cousin of a guy that I played with, Michael Dijon, and his freshman year's down there. So it's a big moment for the Mollison family.
Certainly cool to see. Alabama picks up a 52-7 win over Mercer, and in this era of college football, every win really is important. The Crimson Tide not only continue to keep their name in the race for the college football playoff, but due to some chaos around the SEC, things looking better for a path to Atlanta in the SEC championship game.
Yeah, I mean, you go back and listen to this show probably 4 or 5 weeks ago. After the first of the 2 losses that we have, it was probably looking like we didn't think we had a shot at getting into Atlanta. And now here we are. But this is, this league this year, how competitive it is and how much talent is spread across the entire league. You look around, you see Tennessee gets beat by Georgia on Saturday. That opens up, and we've got Texas and Texas A&M still to play. And whoever loses out of those, there might be another 2-loss team to get in the mix. And all these different scenarios that you're hearing about today of who ends up where and how we've now got control of our own destiny and playing in Atlanta. And, we went out and have a couple other things go our way, and we'll be making the trip. It's kind of crazy to think about where this season was in the middle of October to here we are today with, we control our own fate and have a chance to play for an SEC championship, which I think still is a big deal. A lot of people are trying to downplay it of, do you want to be out there? Do you want to play in this game? I think this is a huge compliment to this staff and this team. The first year after Coach Saban retires, if he can find a way to still get into that SEC championship game, kind of silences a lot of the criticism that they've been taking so far this season, how they've been able to turn this year around. It's still a big deal. I mean, the SEC championship for me was always a massive game, and I still think it carries some weight. Obviously, there's some different elements that play into that with, do you want to be in it as a 2-loss team? Do you still get in the playoffs if you lose in the SEC? I understand all of that, but I think it's awesome that we're at the point where we've got a chance to play for an SEC title.
And Corey Reamer, we have enjoyed this nice weather all throughout the month of November here in Tuscaloosa. It may be a little different when the Crimson Tide head to Norman, Oklahoma this weekend for a night game coming up against the 5-5 Oklahoma Sooners.
Yeah, I think that's a surprise for a lot of people that Oklahoma is sitting here at 5-5. Brent Venables takes over that program a few years ago. High expectations when they joined the SEC. They were probably hoping to be more like this, what Texas has done so far, being at the top of the conference. But it's been a struggle here, and I think a lot of it has to do with the quarterback position. Had some injuries early at quarterback. They're swapping back and forth. Jackson Arnold's the starter, and then you get Michael Hawkins comes in. Two very different styles at quarterback. But they go out there and they, had Missouri on the ropes last week, had a chance to win that ball game. Really probably should have, but still you're going to Norman at night. It's going to be always a tough environment. It's a tough place to play, and this is the first time that Alabama's been there probably since the early 2000s, I think, is the last time they played each other. So this is going to be, not the last time they played each other over there. So going to be fun game. We'll see what happens. This is, you go in the SEC. This is the same thing that we've been preaching the last couple of weeks. You got to go out there and take care of business. You can't afford a game where you slip up and don't show up and be ready to play. And I'm sure Oklahoma, just like the next week with Auburn, is going to be ready to derail Alabama's opportunities to play in the SEC championship and in the playoffs.
Actually, the forecast's not looking that bad for Saturday. High of
85 again?
No, not quite that high. High of 68, low of 51. So the game will be in the 50s, low 60s by the time kickoff rolls around. So that's not bad.
No cold weather for football season this year.
Corey, it should be an exciting week for the Crimson Tide, just continuing to try to move this season forward, get closer to this team's goals.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like we said, this is got to, beat a dead horse. We've got to go out there and take care of business on Saturday. And then you turn around, you got the Iron Bowl next week, and we'll see what happens after that, how all these scenarios that everybody's talking about, right now of who's going to end up in Atlanta and then what the top 12 teams are going to be for the playoffs. It starts this Saturday. There's, this SEC conference has been pretty, there's been a lot of shakeups every single week. You never know who's going down, what's going to happen. There's been a lot of good football within this conference, and now it's up to us to go out there and take care of business. I'm looking forward to that game on Wednesday, the basketball game against Illinois, top 25 ranked team, see how this basketball team bounces back. But then I'll be ready for Saturday. This is going to be fun with this new look SEC at Oklahoma. We saw them earlier in a primetime game against Tennessee, how that looked. And I think Oklahoma fans are going to be excited to welcome the Crimson Tide to their house.
Should be a great atmosphere there. Always a good atmosphere here at Baumhauer's Victory Grill in Vestavia Hills. Couple shout-outs to give. First of all, Bill McDaniel making the trip from Tuscaloosa from our Crimson Tide Sports Marketing Office. Roll Tide to Bill McDaniel making the trip. And then it's always a party with Johnny and our friends right here in front of the stage. But it's especially a party for one person.
Yeah, happy birthday, Dad. Here, he's got a birthday. Then we got Johnny's got a birthday as well. We got two birthdays here tonight. So happy birthday to everybody. Appreciate y'all continuing to show up every single week, making this a fun environment.
Well, it's going to be another party coming up next week. We'll be back with the show at 6 p.m., and our producer, Todd, will be the host of the show. I'll be out with the men's basketball team in Las Vegas. So, yeah, that's an added bonus.
You'll be missed. The excitement level there from them does not mean that you're not going to be missed next week for sure.
Everyone is excited about a Todd show coming up next week. We will have Todd Corey hosting the show to recap Oklahoma. I'll be back with you afterwards for the Iron Bowl recap. But some important football, Corey, coming up. And, again, we're just glad to be able to talk about it here on Monday nights at Baumhauer's.
One of the things you hit on earlier that we didn't really get to talk about, but this, defensive touchdown that we had this past weekend was the first of the season. I remember not that long ago, probably, I think it was 2014 or 2015, where we had like 13 or 15 non-offensive touchdowns in a season. I think this was the first one for this year. That's going to be something that we've got to continue to build on. We've been creating a lot of turnovers, but if we can get a defense that can find their way into the end zone, that's going to be huge. It's a big momentum shifter for games when you can pick up possessions without your offense having to be on the field. That's massive. Hopefully we can continue to do that.
Look forward to it. Corey, Roll Tide. Great work.
Hey, Roll Tide. Appreciate it, Roger.
Fun time last night as Crimson Tide Rewind always starts our week of programming here on the network, but let's take a look at what's coming up this week as we get ready for Alabama football against Oklahoma. As I mentioned before, we will have Hey Coach and the Kneeland DeBoer Show coming up tomorrow at 6 p.m. from Baumhower's in Tuscaloosa. And then later on in the evening, our radio coverage will start at 7 o'clock from downtown Birmingham as Brian Pasink and I will call the Alabama against Illinois men's basketball game tip-off at 8. Certainly look forward to having you join us for both Hey Coach and men's basketball coming up tomorrow. Thursday, another edition of Crimson Drive driven by NASCAR streaming live at 2 p.m. on all of our social media platforms. Then on Friday, look out as well for a new episode of Tide TV This Week on RolledTide.com and our TV affiliates across the state. That day, we'll be making our way to Oklahoma, where we get set for the Crimson Tide and the Oklahoma Sooners on Saturday. Radio start time 3:30 and then kickoff at 6:30. You can listen, of course, on the Varsity Network app, the full radio network, and then, of course, the Yay Alabama Booth Cam streaming live as well during the ball game. Sunday, we'll talk about it, have the ball game with Kneeland DeBoer and Chris Stewart on the Kneeland DeBoer TV show, and then on Monday we'll start it all back again with Crimson Tide Rewind and get ready for men's and women's basketball starting their Thanksgiving week tournaments, and it will be the start of our Iron Bowl prep as well. One other quick note, Crimson Drive, of course, we're back coming up Thursday to preview Oklahoma. Next week we will only have one edition, that'll be Tuesday at 2 o'clock, getting you ready for the Iron Bowl. Make sure you follow us on all of our social media platforms for an inside look at Crimson Tide Athletics, just at UA_CTSN for the very latest on Alabama and the Crimson Tide Sports Network. And that's going to wrap up this busy Tuesday edition of Crimson Drive driven by NASCAR. Thank you to the guests that we've had, Kneeland, Hibbett, Chris Stewart, also Corey Reamer for his time last night, and of course Ethan Carabin. Not only does he produce this show, but he puts together our very popular booth cam highlights and courtside cam highlights and all of our social media platforms throughout the week. So Roll Tide to Ethan. Appreciate his help on the show as well. For everybody with the Crimson Tide Sports Network, this is Roger Hoover saying thank you for watching this edition of Crimson Drive driven by NASCAR. We'll see you back here on Thursday at 2 o'clock. Until then, Roll Tide, everyone.